So now we're at Pebble Beach, and we're filing in from the parking area, and the manufacturers then now try to entice the Pebble Beach goers with their latest displays. And Ferrari always has this spot, so I haven't seen an FF before, but here it is in the flesh, and it actually looks a little bit better than I thought, a little bit more delicate than I thought in the photos, the press, the magazine articles and so on, and the press releases. It kind of looked a little bit bigger, so it actually doesn't look too bad. Although I got to say, I question the need for a four-wheel drive Ferrari, because ultimately, at least in Calgary, you just can't use the performance. So why beat up a $500,000 car on the roads when a Porsche Panamera would probably run circles around it just because it's higher ground clearance and a more aggressive four-wheel drive system. So I think this only puts maybe 15 or 20% to the front wheels, similar to something like a Gallardo. And a true four-wheel drive, or an all-wheel drive car might transfer about 50% of the weight. But anyway, for the guy who needs to have a Ferrari and drive it all the time, it does look like it has a bunch of space in the back. So anyway, it looks better in the flesh than in the photos. Ferrari FF. It's probably about $500,000. I tried to brighten up to California a little bit with some alloy mirrors and so on, but it doesn't help. This car, it's a good car, I think, but there's some inherent compromises with the trying to put a double clutch transmission, which is bulky, and get some luggage space, and put a retractable hardtop. So I think at the end of the day, you've got a really sort of bulky rear end, and no matter what they did with the different character lines down the side and stuff, they can't really disguise that. So I don't think it'll go down as ever being a really attractive car. But all the new Ferraris are good cars, just that they're not all pretty. This is the 288 GTO, and I don't think by any measure it's a good car at all. I think it would be a real challenge to drive it, but it's really pretty, and it would be my choice. So this, of course, is a beefed up 308 with the engine turned longitudinally with twin turbos on it, the transmission sticking out the rear end, and it would have been the same platform that was used by the F40, same design. But this is the original Ferrari supercar of the 80s. I do like these. So this is the Ferrari 599 GTO. And I love it when they have the roof a different color. So I sold a bunch of these when they were new, but I never sold one that wasn't red or black. I never sold a two-tone one, but I think that's a pretty cool car. And here in the center lawn, we've got all the concept cars. What I'm looking for is this new Aston V8 Zagato, but here's the Fisker, which actually we should get pretty quick, because I think they're now starting. I saw one in the parking lot with a plate on it, so I know they're starting to be delivered. And then that car there is the new McLaren MP412C, so that's the 458 competitor. Brilliant car. I hope they expand the dealer network. I hope we get the franchise, and I hope I get to sell these cars in Calgary. Right now they just have 30 dealers worldwide, and only one in Canada, and that's in Toronto. But we're trying to get this franchise. This is the new Lamborghini. It's the Murcielago replacement, the Aventador. And so these are buzzing around Monterey. There must be a little fleet of them taking guys for drives, but 700 horsepower car, and it says some Revention styling cues on it. But it looks like a very successful design, incorporating all those sort of stealth elements that we've been seeing on the Revention to start with. But cool car.
There's Newport Beach, Beverly Hills, Houston.
This is interesting. So this is the Aventador chassis, and so they've come up with a new way of laying up the carbon fiber, so it's a lot more economical. And so traditionally you'd put it in a mold and you'd cut the carbon fiber in a certain direction, you'd lay it down in sheets, and then you would brush it in with a resin, and then stick it in an autoclave, which is a big oven that's under pressure, and then bake it. Extremely time-consuming and extremely expensive process. So this one, they've done something different. I don't know exactly what they've done, but I think that they can mold this in one piece now for something like 1/10 the cost or 1/10 the effort or something like that. Because before, if you had a carbon fiber car, you'd be well over $500,000. So, and then this car, of course, looks like it has alloy, front subframe bonded to it, and then the alloy rear subframe. So this fundamentally isn't much different than the McLaren, actually, because it has the same thing, a carbon fiber tub, and then the alloy attached to it. Interestingly, what I've heard is that the money, what makes the carbon fiber particularly expensive is finishing it off to a high sheen, showing the weave. If it's just a structural thing, then the effort is way less. So both these cars, the McLaren and the Aventador, then have carbon fiber as a structural element, but not as a design element, and so they can leave the carbon roughly finished, and you can get the benefits of carbon fiber in terms of strength and weight, and not all the cost. So, and then there's that engine, which looks absolutely massive, but kind of high off the ground, actually. So the center of gravity of this car is, in the rear, looks pretty high. The McLaren's probably about 8 inches lower, but and look at those inboard spring turrets. So anyway, kind of neat car, and I'm glad we could see it exposed like this. And on this lawn, you often see concept cars of one description or another. It looks like some guys scrape together some money, build a concept, stick it on the lawn here, try to get some deposits, and most of them fail. This one looks like a question, and the answer to a question that absolutely nobody asked. So I don't know what it has. A Mercedes badge on the end. It's got wheels like the old 1886 Mercedes, and it looks to be an electric car of some sort. But anyway, I'm not sure what's going on with this thing. Maybe. Well, no. Okay. Mercedes-Benz F-Cell Roadster. So concept car. So the lateral acceleration is going to be about 0.1 Gs before these things give up. But it probably gives good fuel economy. Although I'm not sure why they bothered with this. Here's a Rolls-Royce with really funny-looking engine compartment. Although it does have looks like it has a crystal flying lady mascot. So I guess that's got to be an electric Rolls-Royce. And you get used to seeing Bugatti Veyrons. Probably, most of the Veyrons in the country show up for Pebble. So this is an interesting. You can see the carbon fiber weave, but it's colored blue. Neat car. And then so that's a coupe. Is this a Grand Sport or not? I can't tell. And then we've got another one here with the Roadster. So kind of a pointless car because it's on the racetrack. It's not that fast. And as a Grand Touring car, it kind of fails because it doesn't have any luggage. So it's very expensive, and I guess it's the right car for cruising around Carmel when you want to get seen. But I don't. It's more of an engineering exercise than a real car. So I'm not a big fan of it. It's just too heavy to be a sports car and not practical enough to be a GT, but that's just my opinion. And here we've got a couple BMWs. So that's, of course, a pre-war 328. And then there's this crazy BMW Roadster. I'm not sure what it's trying to be. It almost looks vaguely Alpha-like in the front, and Bugatti Veyron-like in the rear. And we're not sure about that, but anyway, there you go. I'm not sure what's it called. A 328 Homage. I would suggest it looks absolutely nothing like a 328. I don't know what they're doing, but that's just me. But this, I think, is more successful. Zagato Alfa Romeo TZ3 Stradale. So they would have made the TZ series, which were the 60s race cars. We saw them at Monterey. And this looks like a more successful adaptation of that. You can see the double bubble roof and traditional Alpha grille. I like this car. I think it's cool. This is the car. This is the new Jag concept car. So it's a hybrid. It has twin turbines which turn electric motors to run the car. It's like a 200-mile-an-hour car, and it's really beautiful. It's got a crowd around it here, but Ian Callum's real masterpiece. So, and I guess the twin turbines, you can run it on anything, any sort of oil, or French fry oil or diesel fuel or whatever you want. But it's a working prototype. They've tested it in a couple of the magazine articles, but it's probably I would say the best concept car of the last couple of years. Jaguar CX-75 concept car. Lotus Evora GTE road car. Well, that looks kind of nasty, doesn't it? Love it, actually. The Evora, they tried to make it a little bit more practical, but it's still a little bit tight for me. But turning it into like a more aggressive car makes a lot of sense to me. So this is a neat machine. Neat rear spoiler on this car.